So you want to take your brand global, right? I mean, that's the dream for so many entrepreneurs. But what if I told you that most who try, well, they fail, and it's usually not some big, spectacular crash. It's a path full of hidden traps where all that initial excitement can actually work against you. Today, we're going to crack open a playbook that promises to change all that. Our guide for today is the Franchise Arabia Playbook by Omar Alhaza'A. Now, this isn't some academic ivory tower theory. This is from a guy who has spent 2 decades right in the trenches of international franchising. Think of it less like a textbook and more like a collection of battle-tested lessons from real-world deals. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay, so you might be thinking, great, another business book. But what really makes this playbook different? Well, for starters, it's not packed with a bunch of jargon or those wildly optimistic forecasts. No, this thing is built on a foundation of real-world experience, the kind of gut-wrenching lessons you only learn from making mistakes.
And right from the jump, the author makes this incredibly powerful point. He says, deals don't fail because of a lack of enthusiasm. They fail because of a lack of understanding. Just let that sink in. That one sentence completely flips the script on the problem, doesn't it? It sets us up for a much, much deeper conversation about what it really takes to succeed.
And this is exactly why he calls it a field guide. It's not meant to be read once and then just sit on a shelf collecting dust. No way. This is a tool you're supposed to have with you in the middle of a real negotiation. The advice is direct, it's practical, and it's all born from the scars and successes of actual deals. So let's talk about the big problem this playbook is trying to solve. It's something the author calls the quiet failure. It's this slow, almost invisible process that ends up dooming so many new franchise ventures before they even really get going. And get this, here's a pretty sobering number from the author's own experience. Most international franchises that end up failing, they do it within the first 18 months. That is a shockingly short amount of time for what is usually a massive investment. But here's the real kicker. It's rarely the product that's the problem. The pizza is still amazing, the coffee is still great. The failure comes from a string of small, totally avoidable mistakes that just add up over time until the whole thing collapses. And this is what makes these failures so deceptive. You know, on the surface, everything looks like smart business. You're moving fast, you're making progress, you're saving money. But underneath all that, a series of seemingly good decisions are quietly and methodically destroying the trust and the profitability that the business is built on. So, after 2 decades in this business, watching deals come and go, the author started to see a pattern. He identified 5 common mistakes that are almost guaranteed to kill a franchise. He calls them, fittingly, the 5 franchise killers.
Let's run through them real quick. First up, granting franchise rights way too early, before you've really done your homework on a partner. It's so tempting to sign quickly, but trust me, a bad partner is so much worse than no partner at all. Second, underestimating localization costs. Just thinking you can copy and paste your brand into a new culture, it never ever works. Third, skimping on training. This isn't just a one-day workshop, it's the absolute lifeblood of your brand's consistency. Fourth, choosing a location just because the rent is cheap, instead of where the customers are. That's a classic short-term saving that leads to long-term failure. And finally, number 5, and maybe the biggest one, ignoring your franchisees' profitability. Because if they aren't making money, you won't be in business for very long either.
Okay, so those are the pitfalls. But how do you actually avoid them? Well, it's not as simple as just having a checklist. According to the author, it takes a fundamental shift in how you even think about growth. It's all about moving from seeing it as a transaction to seeing it as a responsibility. Let's connect the dots here. Think back to that list of killers we just went through. Rushing the deal, cutting corners on training, ignoring your partner's bottom line. What's the one thing they all have in common? What's the real issue that ties them all together? It all boils down to this one simple but incredibly powerful idea. Growth is a responsibility, not a transaction. I mean, just think about that for a second. This isn't just about signing a contract, collecting a fee, and moving on. It's about a deep, long-term commitment to your brand and to your partners. So what does this responsibility mindset actually look like in the real world? It's about having the discipline to walk away from a deal that just doesn't feel right, even if it looks fantastic on paper. It's about actively working to make sure your franchisees are profitable, because you understand that their success is your success. It's that simple. All right, so as we start to wrap this up, the playbook leaves us with one last piece of really solid advice. It's like a final mental checklist you need to go through before you even think about signing on that dotted line. And look, it's really important to get this. The goal here isn't to scare you away from expanding your brand internationally. Not at all. It's actually the opposite. It's to give you the tools and the mindset to do it the right way. The whole point is to make you slow down just enough to get it right the first time. So, in the end, what's the big takeaway? It's that this isn't about having all the answers. It's about learning to ask better questions. It's about challenging every single assumption you have and really rethinking that deal that looks good on paper. Because that's how you protect the things that really matter: your time, your capital, and most importantly, your reputation. So the next time you're looking at a deal that seems almost too good to be true, I want you to remember this. The contract, the numbers, that's only part of the story. The real key to success, it's hidden in the questions you're brave enough to ask before you commit.